Imagine facing like a 10-year sentence in Malaysia's infamous Sungai Buloh prison, all because you you misplaced a single decimal point on a fertilizer invoice.
Right, which sounds completely
Which
crazy.
sounds like pure paranoia. But when you run a modern, highly complex agricultural franchise, that isn't paranoia. It's actually a very real legal liability.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are unpacking a technology that was built specifically to make that exact threat physically impossible.
It really is fascinating.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at something called the UOP, right?
Yeah, the Urus Operasi Pintar.
Which translates roughly to Smart Operations Management. And for you listening today, our sources are directly from Ecoladang Microfarms. We've got their internal architectural guidelines and their Pillar 5 system documentation.
Right, so Ecoladang, they designed these closed contract franchise agreements for incredibly advanced agrotech facilities. And the UOP is essentially the invisible engine running the whole operation.
Yeah, and the UOP is framed in these documents as a mandatory defensive enterprise resource planning platform, an ERP.
Right.
So if you think of an ERP as the central nervous system of a massive corporation, tying together HR, inventory, accounting, all into one giant centralized brain, well, Ecoladang has essentially shrunk that enterprise-level brain down. They put it in a box on a microfarm to act as like a personal digital bodyguard for the franchisee.
That's a great way to put it. And the hardware hosting this system, it's called a Sovereign Agro-Intelligence Node, or SANE.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's a hardened on-site intelligence center. And hosting it locally is actually a huge deal because it ensures the farm's operations are never disrupted by external internet outages or, rural connectivity drops.
Which makes sense if you're out in a rural area.
Exactly. The whole philosophy driving the eSane and the UOP software is that the massive administrative burden of running a complex biological business, it just has to be taken entirely off the franchise owner's shoulders.
So the farmer can just focus on farming.
Right. They shouldn't be doing paperwork.
But, putting a hardened cryptographic AI node on a small farm, it feels a little like overkill. Like if I'm a franchisee and I'm just growing specialty mushrooms or raising insect larvae, standard bookkeeping software like QuickBooks or something, that should be enough, right? Unless the legal environment they're operating in is just incredibly hostile.
Well, that's exactly it. The internal guidance document stresses that a single operational oversight, or even just a tax reporting mismatch in Malaysia, it can lead to devastating consequences for business owners.
Wow.
Yeah. We're not just talking about getting a municipal fine in the mail. The sources explicitly detail the risk of devastating personal liability, immediate business shutdown, or, like you said, criminal charges.
Just from a mismatch.
Yeah, because the law, as they outline it in their legal risk assessment, it doesn't discriminate between an honest administrative mistake and intentional fraud.
Yeah.
The legal consequences are often identically severe.
Man, which makes that fear of ending up in Dang Wangi lockup incredibly visceral.
Oh, absolutely.
But okay, when I read through the Pillar 5 documentation, the level of surveillance the UOP demands is staggering. We are talking about every raw input, every crop bash, every single inventory shift being logged.
Logged and anchored.
Right, not just logged on a local hard drive, but anchored to the Stellar blockchain on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, it sounds like micromanagement on steroids. It kind of feels like having a corporate spy living in your greenhouse, watching your every move.
The architects of the UOP actually anticipated that exact fear from potential franchisees.
They did.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is how they flip that narrative. They turn it from a tool of surveillance into an impenetrable legal shield.
Okay, how so?
Well, we should break down how this cryptographic anchoring actually works mechanically.
Hey.
Every single time a franchisee initiates a crop badge or moves a substrate log or even just adjusts the humidity, the UOP assigns that action a unique cryptographically hashed ID.
So the hash acts as like a digital fingerprint for that specific event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A digital fingerprint that locks the state of that data in time forever.
Right.
Once that hash is compiled and written to the Stellar blockchain, it becomes an immutable record. The mathematics behind the blockchain dictate that the record cannot be modified, it can't be deleted, it can't be backdated.
By anyone.
By anyone. A local franchise owner cannot alter it to cover up a mistake, and this is key. The corporate administrators back at Ecoladang headquarters, they can't alter it either to shift blame onto the farmer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it completely replaces human error and administrative gaps with absolute cryptographic truth.
Which means if a government inspector shows up, alleging fraud or claiming the farm's records were altered to hide some unauthorized transaction, the franchisee doesn't have to mount this complex, expensive legal defense. They just point to the blockchain ledger.
Right.
The math proves their innocence.
It creates a shared reality that neither party can manipulate. And the internal memos provide a pretty stark, real-world example of why Ecoladang insists on this. They call it the rogue cultivation risk.
The rogue cultivation risk. Okay, what is that?
So these micro farms, they call them agro shacks, right?
Yeah.
They are pristine, highly advanced, climate-controlled environments.
Yeah.
The corporate concern is that an independent operator might decide to use that perfectly controlled environment to grow unauthorized, highly lucrative, or illegal crops.
Right. The document actually mentions things like unauthorized cannabis cultivation or certain types of restricted mushrooms.
Exactly. And given the severe legal liabilities we just discussed, a single farmer doing that would be catastrophic for the entire Ecoladang network.
Oh, because the government could shut the whole network down?
Yes. So rather than sending corporate managers out to physically inspect every single shack, which is impossible,
Yeah.
the CNA's telemetry sensors just constantly monitor the internal environment.
Okay.
The humidity, the temperature cycles, the light spectrum, all of it is tracked. If an operator tries to grow a rogue crop, the unique environmental requirements for that crop will create a severe data mismatch with what is supposedly growing there.
I see.
And the system instantly logs that environmental mismatch as an immutable hash on the blockchain.
Creating an undeniable record of the anomaly.
Right. But, crucially, Ecoladang does not believe in cold automated lockouts.
Okay, meaning what?
Meaning, when the SAN flags that anomaly, it doesn't just slam the doors shut, cut the power, and lock the farmer out of their business.
Right.
Instead, it logs the deviation and triggers a supportive audit process.
A supportive audit.
Yeah. The central management team is alerted, and they actively reach out to work hand in hand with the franchisee to troubleshoot the gap. It's designed as a collaborative intervention to fix the problem, not some punitive automated shutdown.
Okay, so the blockchain protects the farmer from accusations of rogue cultivation and internal disputes. But, the most frequent threat to a small business isn't an accusation of growing illegal crops, right? It's usually the routine, microscopic scrutiny of the National Tax Authority.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does this immutable ledger hold up when the government demands a tax audit?
Well, this is where we get into the intersection of corporate tech and national policy. So Malaysia has implemented this mandatory system called LHDN e-invoicing.
Right.
To understand the UOP's role here, we really have to look at how the internal documents view this government mandate. The sources claim this system places a massive, complex administrative burden on small business owners.
Yeah, the author of the memo describes it as a really intrusive framework where government officials can basically see everything a business is doing, and they explicitly claim it does not have the business owner's best interests in mind.
Right.
And just for you listening, we want to be super clear. We are not taking a stance on Malaysian tax policy here. We are purely reporting the perspective found within Ecoladang's internal architectural guidance because, well, that perspective is what drives the software's design.
Exactly. The key takeaway from the documents is the perception of a massive administrative burden.
Right.
So the UOP is engineered to neutralize that specific burden entirely. The software features a native API and application programming interface. Think of an API as an invisible digital bridge built right into the local farm's SAN node, and it links directly to the Malaysian Inland Revenue Database, the LHDN.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because every single transaction generated by the farm is handled automatically across that bridge in real time.
Yeah, everything.
It isn't just logging the big external sales. If an internal cross-charge happens, say, an internal accounting shift between a foreman and a cultivation node that gets logged.
Right.
If there's an external sales slip from the local e-commerce web shop, logged. The memo notes that Ecoladang takes a small fractional cut of those web shop sales, which obviously necessitates flawless granular tracking.
And you have to understand, an e-invoice isn't just like a simple PDF receipt. It is a highly structured data packet that has to be sent to a government server, validated against really strict formatting rules, and then returned with a unique clearance identifier. Yeah, and the UOP does all of this invisibly. Every single transaction is automatically formatted to government standards, validated, and logged into the e-invoicing system without the franchisee ever touching a keyboard.
Just think about the immense relief that provides. Like in the event of a surprise LHDN tax inspection, the franchisee isn't scrambling through shoeboxes looking for fading paper receipts.
No, not at all.
They aren't trying to reconcile Excel spreadsheets from 6 months ago. They literally just point to the UOP logs, which already match the government's database perfectly, and they're backed by that tamper-proof stellar blockchain ledger.
Yeah, it is basically audit-ready peace of mind delivered automatically.
But this frictionless philosophy it doesn't stop at taxes and legal defense, right?
No, it dictates the boots-on-the-ground reality for the franchise owner and their farm staff every single day.
Right.
The UOP maintains an entirely automated financial and administrative suite. A typical microfarm has incredibly diverse revenue streams. I mean, they're selling harvested food, but they're also receiving carbon credit allocations, and they're generating revenue from energy dispatch back to the grid or the central hub.
That is a lot to track.
It is. But the UOP tracks, separates, and accounts for all of this automatically in airtight cash books.
And it does all the heavy lifting for accounts receivable and payable, too. It automatically matches outgoing invoices sent to distributors with incoming material invoices from the central agri-park, and it just runs automated reconciliations.
Look at that.
It compiles local expenses, asset depreciation, payroll. It auto-generates the underlying tax templates. You essentially eliminate the need to hire an expensive external bookkeeper.
Yeah, it's all handled. And on the physical management side, the UOP uses predictive inventory tracking. So it constantly monitors the consumption of physical inputs on the farm.
Right, things like the substrate logs for the mushrooms or the larvae for the insect farming, specialized feed, even just cardboard packaging materials.
Yeah.
It's basically like having a smart fridge in your kitchen that realizes, hey, you're drinking a lot of milk this week, so it automatically orders a new carton before you even open the door and realize you're empty.
That's a perfect analogy.
Except this is happening on a massive biological commercial scale.
Right. The system calculates real-time consumption rates, and it automatically schedules reorders via the central logistics fleet before a bottleneck ever occurs.
Because keeping those biological cycles uninterrupted is paramount.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the system also manages the human element flawlessly, which is usually the hardest part. The documents outline the role of MOPS-managed operational farmers.
MOPS.
Yeah, these are the on-site physical workers hired by the franchisee to run the daily tasks.
Because traditionally, managing farm workers involves like endless clipboards, laminated checklists, and just hoping someone didn't pencil whip the forms at the end of their shift without actually doing the work.
Right, which is why the UOP entirely removes the pencil from the equation.
Okay, how?
The MOPS use simplified Mobile Standard Operating Procedures, SOPs, on handheld devices.
Yeah.
And the brilliance of this interface is the mandatory task verification.
Okay, let's say an MOP has an SOP to check a critical water filtration gauge. They can't just tap done on their screen to clear the task, right? To complete it, they actually have to upload a live photo of the gauge using their device.
Exactly. And the sane AI steps in at that exact moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the intelligence node cross-references that photo or sometimes direct sensor data using computer vision to verify accuracy. It mathematically confirms the task was actually done and that the gauge reads exactly what it's supposed to read.
And the sources specifically state that this photographic and sensor confirmation is immediately logged on the assessing to protect the franchise owner from claims of negligence.
Yes.
Like, if a crop fails 3 weeks later and a distributor tries to sue the farmer, claiming the water wasn't filtered properly, the franchisee has a time-stamped, AI-verified, cryptographically hashed photo proving the work was done perfectly.
Right.
The legal shield extends all the way down to a worker checking a dial on a Tuesday morning. That is wild.
It really is. But, we spent a lot of time looking at the micro level here. The local franchisee worried about their specific agro shack, their substrate logs, their water gauges.
Right.
But the UOP is also operating on a massive macro level. It's designed specifically for the regional agro-park managers, too. And their administrative needs are completely distinct from the individual franchise owner.
Right, because these regional managers, they're overseeing the shared infrastructure and the municipal scale hubs. They aren't looking at single water gauges. They're managing industrial scale logistics and heavy power generation.
Yeah, it's less like a traditional manager's office and more like an air traffic control radar.
Oh, I like that.
They aren't flying the planes, or in this case, growing the crops, but they have complete visibility over the entire ecosystem. For instance, the agro-park managers handle massive volumes of incoming raw biomass. The UOP provides them with weighbridge automation.
So when a truck carrying agricultural waste rolls onto the drive-on, drive-off dynamic weigh bridges, the system just instantly reads the truck's RFID tag. It
Exactly.
weighs the load, calculates the value, and immediately allocates the appropriate carbon credits or revenue share directly to the supplying farmer's digital wallet.
Yeah.
There are no paper manifests, no delayed checks in the mail. It is instant automated commerce at an industrial scale.
And the managers are also responsible for grid-scale electrification.
Right.
The agroparks utilize Syngas turbine generators and agitated bed pyrolysis plants.
Pyrolysis plants.
Right, which basically means they bake the excess agricultural waste, the biomass, in an oxygen-free environment.
Wow.
And because there's no oxygen, it doesn't actually burn.
Oh, okay.
Instead, it breaks down, and it releases a combustible gas called syngas.
Right.
That syngas spins the turbines to generate electricity, and it leaves behind biochar, which is this highly valuable carbon-rich fertilizer.
And the UOP measures that exact input-to-output ratio in real time, right?
Yeah.
Tracking syngas volumes and biochar yields.
Yes. The managers use advanced power transfer logs, APT logs, to monitor this. The UOP automates the switching between the biomass-generated energy, the park's solar arrays, and the local municipal backup grid.
So they never lose power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The overarching goal is maintaining absolute zero downtime operations while balancing the power load distribution across all the connected agro shacks in the network.
And to keep all of this heavy infrastructure moving, the central hub utilizes a heavy logistics fleet. We are talking about electric tracked excavators, backhoes, Tesla Semi, and the UOP tracks the operational hours, the oil lifespans, clutch wear, hydraulic pressure for every single vehicle.
It is advanced predictive maintenance applied across an entire regional network. Like if the UOP notices a 5% pressure drop in a specific excavator's hydraulic line, it predicts a seal failure in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And it automatically schedules the maintenance. It integrates with work orders so the heavy industry workshop can fabricate the exact spare parts in-house before that vehicle ever experiences any downtime.
That is incredible. And the tool tying all of this together for the agropark managers is the centralized multi-tenant auditing system, which they access via the regional compliance console.
Right. So going back to the air traffic control analogy, this high-level dashboard allows managers to monitor the environmental, financial, and legal health of dozens of local AgroShack franchises simultaneously.
Right.
If that AI sensor we discussed earlier flags an anomaly in one single shack, like an unexpected temperature spike or a missed e-invoice validation, it pings this central dashboard instantly.
Which allows for rapid collaborative intervention across the entire network before regulatory bodies can intervene or, before a biological failure cascades into a massive supply chain issue.
Exactly. It functions as a unified defensive network.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We started today by talking about the dread of paperwork, the terror of misplaced decimals, and the massive legal liability that comes with running a physical business in this kind of environment.
Yeah.
What Ecoladang has done with the UOP isn't just build an app you use to run a farm. They have engineered a comprehensive defensive ecosystem.
That's exactly what it is.
They are taking the immutability of the Stellar blockchain and the seamless integration of government APIs and using them to just absorb all the friction and danger of Malaysian legal and tax compliance. They handle the macro-level energy grids and heavy fleet maintenance, while the local franchisee gets to simply do what they actually signed up to do: cultivate.
It really is a profound paradigm shift in franchise management. And if cryptographic ledgers and AI sensor verification can completely remove the legal, tax, and administrative liabilities of running a complex biological agricultural business,
Yeah.
it raises a vital question.
Yeah.
How long until this invisible defensive operating system model becomes the mandatory standard for every physical franchise?
Wow. Yeah, imagine a local fast food franchise or a municipal manufacturing plant where every single ingredient, every safety check, every tax remittance, and every mechanical vibration is automatically hashed and verified without the owner lifting a finger.
It changes everything.
The invisible digital bodyguard might just be the future of all business. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll catch you on the next one.